Does the exercise of freedom of expression and independent journalism make a difference in the world in which we live? My answer is a resounding yes. It is always worth fighting for, and here are some of the reasons why. History is resplendent with examples of where and how good journalism has shone a light into darkness and has even changed the course of history. Founding an independent newspaper in the mid-80s at the height of South African occupation in Namibia brought incredible challenges. But it resulted in the exposure of human rights atrocities under the jackboot of apartheid, which may otherwise have remained hidden. It also arguably helped to hasten the country's self-determination and eventual independence in 1990. Disinformation, misinformation, lies, propaganda, and what some call fake news is not a new phenomenon, despite its increased prevalence and enhanced spread in the digital age. Newspaperman Walter Lippmann recognized this decades ago when he said, "Ours is a problem in which deception has become organized and strong, where truth is poisoned at its source, one in which the skill of the shrewdest brains is devoted to misleading a bewildered people." In the 1980s, we strove to expose the lies of propaganda under apartheid and paid the price for truth-telling in the form of bombings, harassment, jailings, even attempted assassination and bans. And here in the Namibian's newsroom is testimony to a 1991 firebombing where phosphorus grenades were used to destroy the newsroom. Again, our story of speaking truth to power and doing so through journalism is not unique. It was and continues to be mirrored by others in many parts of the world in authoritarian societies, and sadly, in some democracies too. What was important in the formative years of the Namibian newspaper was that we had the people on our side. We had aimed from our inception to be the voice of the people. We wanted to give testimony to their suffering under apartheid and racism. We showed the world what was happening under the jackboot of apartheid. The belief of most Namibians in what we were doing as free and independent media helped us in turn to find the courage to continue as we faced attempts to silence us and obstacles at every turn. In the current environment in which people are turning their backs on traditional media in their obsession with clickbait and social media and their difficulties in assessing what is fake and what is real, journalists are losing the trust of the people. The world over, but in Namibia and Africa too, newspapers, still the repository of some of the best investigative journalism ever seen, are struggling to sustain and survive against the dual threats of depressed economies and the digital tsunami. How we can earn back that trust and confidence remains a critical question for those who believe in press freedom and independence as being the backbone of democracy. There is little doubt that keeping close to our communities is absolutely essential if we want them to regain their belief in us. As we learned in the 80s, what other brave media continue to experience today, speaking truth to power and being truth-tellers has always been an uncomfortable and even life-threatening thing to do. Especially, but not only in undemocratic societies, numerous brave journalists and human rights advocates the world over can attest to the dangers of telling it like it is. In the Philippines, Maria Ressa and Rappler have coined the hashtag phrase, "Hold the line," in their defense of press freedom under fire by the Duterte government. For new media in countries across Africa, the reality of internet shutdowns is stifling online rights to free expression, and journalistic safety has never been more compromised than it is today. It is a depressing scenario in which governments continue to exact retribution for the probing eye of the media. Going forward as activists and journalists, trainers and development workers intent on protecting freedom of speech, the focus must be on the importance of saving and sustaining good journalism. This means raising journalistic standards of excellence, especially in this age of disinformation. Training media professionals is of critical importance. Finding innovative ideas around the options regarding sustainability and the viability of journalism. Pushing also for access to information laws. Standing up against repressive media laws and improving self-regulation and quality initiatives from inside the media sectors. These are some of the key areas we need to focus on if we want good investigative journalism to keep its rightful place in informing the public and making of them better citizens. If we talk about striving for journalistic excellence, then we need to ask ourselves what makes people good journalists and what lies at the core of our craft. First of all, passion. If you love what you do, it's not work at all. And this distinguishes the great from the merely good journalists. Secondly, it takes people of integrity to work selflessly in their communities, knowing that the material rewards are not great. They need to be curious and, like sponges, soak up information. And of course, they have to be brave. We can all strengthen our cause by combining focus and resources in our different but related areas of media freedom and development, sustainability, access to information, and even media literacy, or promoting journalistic excellence, because all of these are inextricably linked. We need to work collaboratively and not in isolation to get the groundswell back on our side. Where the rights of journalists are eroded, the rights of citizens will be dissipated as well. We need the support of the people for our cause, and so it remains critical that we include them in everything we do. We need to promote media literacy so that they are less vulnerable to the machinations of politicians and other negative forces who seek to keep them in a state of confusion, even darkness. Again, to quote Walter Lippmann, there can be no liberty for a community which lacks the means by which to detect lies. Campaigns for freedom of expression, as well as media freedom and development, sustainability, access to information, promotion of independent journalism, and even media literacy, cannot be delinked or seen in isolation from one another. The words of the Windhoek Declaration of 1991, adopted by African journalists from across the continent, that a free, independent, and pluralistic press is essential to the development and maintenance of democracy and economic development, are as true today as they were then. All of you attending this boot camp have probably already realized that it will never be easy to do what you are doing, and that there is sacrifice involved, and probably hurdles to overcome every step of the way. But always remember, in your commitment to the greater good, what author Margaret Mead once said: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.